Hi, this is Chrissy with Guidepost to Wellness. Welcome to 2021. This is the first video of the year. I apologize for being a little slow and getting rolling again after the holidays, but I'll probably talk about that a little bit more in another video. Today what I wanted to talk about is something that is called headline stress disorder. And for those of you that are new to this channel, we talk about anything and everything that can have to do with your overall wellness. And that's why I wanted to talk about this topic today. So, does watching or reading the news stress you out? Do you feel anxious, fearful, powerless, uncertain of your future after you watch it? Many of us do. Have you been having trouble sleeping? Right now is a very unsettled time. We have issues with the election. We had a breach at the Capitol. We still have many people that are affected by the virus that aren't working or have lost loved ones. Just a tumultuous time. But do you find yourself relentlessly watching the news, checking your news feed, plugging in the social media all the time, and just, feeling like you're compelled to do so? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're not alone. The last study that I saw said about 50% of Americans feel that way most of the time. I think with our current events that have been going on, it's probably even more so. I've even found myself getting into that where I'm checking things a lot more. And I think that that's really a challenging thing to have. But what I really wanted to talk about is what can we do about it? So I mentioned the phrase headline stress disorder, and this was coined by Dr. Steven Stosny, and this actually started back during the 2016 election season. Many of his clients were letting the mainstream media coverage stress them out. And I chose those words very carefully, letting the media stress them out. Those of you that have watched other videos that I've talked about with stress and wellness, I'm a firm believer that unless you have a grizzly bear chasing you, or if you are literally ill and in the hospital, or you're caught in the middle of a snowstorm or something physically threatening you, then the stress that we feel, we allow ourselves to feel that stress. We choose to feel that stress. We let the media with those horrible clickbait titles and fear-mongering. I mean, there's so much fear in the media nowadays with the ticker about the COVID deaths and the number of cases and the economy. They've got these tickers going across the bottom of mainstream media all the time. It's just always right there and in your face. But the thing is I am a firm believer that we can control our stress response most of the time, and how we respond to those news stories is really up to us. Now, I recognize that we as human beings are actually physiologically designed to focus more on negative things. There's a part of our brain that is looking for threats, and so the media, I feel, really focuses on that, and they actually are using our own human nature against us with the fear and the clickbait that they do. Our brains are hardwired for what we call a negativity bias, because anything that's negative could be a threat to our well-being. And that goes back to the times when it really was all about our survival from the elements and from predators and things, and not our survival from the onslaught of media information. So what happens is when we see images or we're watching a news story, our imaginations just take over and make it seem real. So if you were watching the coverage of the storming of the Capitol and you saw people that were injured, or if you are looking at the news stories about COVID, you actually, where our brains are so magnificent in a sense with our imagination, that we can actually put ourselves right there. And then we have a physiological response. We trigger that fight or flight mechanism, and then we feel like we are fighting for our lives, even though we're just watching something on the news. And that is something that ironically can actually weaken our immune systems. Isn't that just crazy? That the more stressed we are, the more cortisol that is, it decreases our white blood cells, which actually decreases our abilities to fight viruses. So the mainstream media is actually weakening us if we allow it to make us scared and to make us fearful. if we allow those feelings to course through our veins, then we are actually decreasing the efficacy of our white blood cells, of our immune system, and making ourselves more susceptible to that of which we fear. So that's where we really want to make sure that we aren't overreacting to stories and that we're taking the time to sit back and get some perspective. And that's why I wanted to do this video. I did this blog post probably about a year or so ago, but I wanted to do a video because now the timing just seems even more relevant. Because I know that if I can feel these emotions and I can feel myself getting caught up in checking my mainstream media and stuff like that, that there are other people that probably are too. So the challenge is, how do we take back control? Well, and for some of us that may be harder if we are really caught up in the loop of the fix of getting the news media, but there are some things that we can do, okay? Because now that we know that the mainstream media is leveraging our human nature against us and that their purpose is to scare us so that we keep coming back to get more and more and more news, well, now we can settle back and go, okay, what can I do about this? They're trying to scare me. So it's different if I'm going to watch a scary movie and I know that I'm going to get scared. But I don't think most of us expect the news and the media to want to scare us, but they do, because that's what keeps us coming back, okay? So that cycle of being afraid and tuning back in more and more and clicking on them and watching their stories, that's what keeps them in business. So we need to take some steps to dial that back. Knowledge is power. That awareness is an incredible first step. So being aware that, oh, okay, this is just clickbait. There could be truth to it, but right now I'm sitting here and is this headline like a grizzly bear coming after me? No, it's not. So I can look at this more objectively. All right, so that's a really good first step. Now there are tools on like screen time capture, I think on the iPhone. I'm not sure if they have something similar on the Google App Store, or other types of phones that you can look and see how much time am I really spending doing this. So that can be the first step, and then setting yourself some limits. Set a timer when you find yourself just going down that rabbit hole. I always found that Pinterest was the one that I could do that. I could just get into Pinterest and you just keep clicking and finding more and more and more. So if you find that you're doing that, set a timer and say, okay, I'm going to allow myself this amount of time, okay? Another thing that's really important to do is look for balance and try to find opposing viewpoints. So don't take everything that the media is giving you as the only truth, the only facts. Because again, they may be leaving things out in order to scare you, or there may be more information that is relevant to you, okay? So always try to balance that. Look for other sources to get your information from. So balancing, cutting back on the time by actually setting up timers on your apps, things of that nature. Those are some good steps. And don't forget that there's good things out there. So for every negative story, counterbalance that with something positive, okay? Whether it's a goofy cat video on YouTube, or I just recently discovered goodnewsnetwork.org, and because it seems like you always have to dig through articles and places to get positive stories. So I've found some series on YouTube that are really wonderful stories. George to the Rescue, just goofy. I follow several animal rescue organizations, so those always have a more positive message, and that's how I balance my good and my bad. A couple other tools that I've talked about when it comes to helping you sleep and things of that nature is the use of technology before you go to bed and when you first get up in the morning. So work on setting yourself some limits on that so that you don't read any mainstream media, anything negative that might get you geared up about an hour before you go to bed, and then set yourself a target in the morning. You may not be able to do the hour like some people recommend, then try 30 minutes. So start small. Start with something that's doable, okay? Gratitude exercises. How many times do I talk about gratitude exercises? Because no matter how bad things seem to be, there's always something to be grateful for. I'm not going to use the phrase, it could always be worse, because it can. So instead of worrying about that and going into a place where we don't want to go there, then let's focus on what we have that's already a benefit in our life. That is something to be grateful for. So that helps also downplay the negativity of that. So I'm going to put some links to my other videos on gratitude exercises and how simple they are to start with. I think that it may be trite, but it's true. And if we focus more on those types of things, then that's helpful as well. I'm also going to put some links down below about our locus of control versus, the things that we are concerned about, but things that are outside of our little circle of control that can cause us to worry. I've done a couple videos on that, so I'll talk about some of those things too. So I think that recognizing headline stress disorder or just at least recognizing the amount of stress that we put ourselves under sometimes by reading those headlines is the first step. It really is, okay? And I realize I'm not expecting people to go to, from being freaked out by everything that they read or see on CNN to being, Zen-like and, peace and love to everything in the world. No, that's not at all what I'm recommending. I am recommending balance, though. So being aware of the agenda of the media to get you to keep coming back out of fear is important. Balancing where you get your media and balancing the good news to counteract the bad news is important. Stepping back and recognizing that you're not at an imminent threat right now, so don't allow that fight or flight mechanism to kick in. Look for ways to cut back on the negative media that you're bringing into your mind, into your world, is a way to do that. Balance that with positive things. Always balance it with gratitude. All of those things are really helpful. And I think that if you do that and you don't allow the mainstream media news coverage to get under your skin, you're going to find yourself feeling better overall. You're going to find yourself feeling calmer. That's going to be great for your immune system. And that, and along with some vitamin D, is going to help keep you healthier and keep that virus from having less of an impact on your life as well. So check out some of the other videos below. I'd love to hear your comments about how you handle the news and the media and things like that. What type of strategies do you have for supporting balance in your life? I'd love to hear from you about that. Take care and be well.